What is up, Buckeye Nation? It's been a little while. I apologize for that. Technical difficulties and just busy schedules. We're three busy guys, but here we are, Florida Corey, hosting the Scarlet N Great Empire, along with my good friend, co-founder of the Scarlet N Great Empire, Shane Sugar Ray Larson. I always call him Sugar Ray. I don't know why, but the Boise Buckeye, the game time guru himself. Shane, how are you doing, my friend?
So good, Corey. I'm glad to be back, man. I was glad we were able to get this recording done. I haven't seen you for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and so it's about time to get back here and talk Buckeye football, man.
Oh, and it's exciting times. Exciting
Oh, it
times.
is.
Yesterday, we saw something that we've been waiting to see: is the introductory press conferences to all of the new coaches. I've been waiting. I don't know about you. I've been waiting for that. I'm like, I want
Oh
to hear
yeah.
these guys speak. Oh, Shane's like, yeah, I'm in media. What are you talking about? Of course I know. Anyway, guys, all Buckeye Nation out there, we appreciate you. Ohio State football, Scarlet Great, right here on YouTube. Please subscribe if you like what you see. Like the video. It helps the channel grow. And comment what you think about what you saw about the coaches yesterday. I know you saw the interviews. You're too interested not to. We're going to start with the man himself, though, Jimmy Knowles. The head coach of the defense, as Ryan Day calls him, and he is the head coach of the defense. And I love this fact that Ryan Day is obviously putting out the Buckeye Nation. I want nothing to do with the defense. I want a guy to run that dang thing and run it really good. Reminds me of the Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio, playing Howard Hughes, going and getting John C. Riley's character to say, "I need somebody to run it or do a dang good job." you know,
Yeah.
Toolco anyway, and so I feel like that's what he's doing here. I need you to get my defense in order, run it, and do a dang good job. What were your first impressions, Shane, of Jimmy Knowles?
Well, and to go along with what Ryan Day was saying, you want in a business, we'll look at this as a business in the sense you don't want a jack of all trades, master of none. You want to be able to focus in and put have somebody that can just be that master of that particular piece. And that's first and foremost what I think Ryan Day has done a great job of putting these pieces there. So he doesn't have to be doing all these things. He can focus on what he needs to focus on, and everybody else can follow suit in that regard. But Jimmy Knowles, man, I will tell you, I was, everybody in their interviews are on their best behavior. Nothing bad has actually happened yet. They haven't had to face any adversity yet. So it's their first interview. They're excited, so you naturally are expecting the excitement. So that was first thing. He was happy, but it wasn't anything crazy. He seems like he's happy to be there. But what I liked about him, a couple of things, Corey, that we can dissect here. First and foremost, when they asked him about what do you want to do like on defense? What are you wanting to do? And he mentioned, I want to create indecision for the offense. Okay, well, that's common sense, right? Most defensive coordinators want to do that. But the way that he said it, he mentioned simplicity, but he wants to come at different angles, but keep it simple so that the players can understand where they're supposed to be. I think what we've seen in recent times with this Buckeye defense is we were trying to get too complex at times. And unfortunately, some of the personnel that we had, I'm not trying to say that they're stupid. I'm just saying that the personnel that we had, just maybe there's a lot going on and they weren't able to always adjust on the fly. And so I love that he referenced simplicity. We're going to be going at them at different angles. We're going to create a defense that makes the offensive coordinator have to think and adjust themselves to create indecision for the offense, but simplicity at the same time in a way that the players can comprehend it. And that's what I am looking forward to the most, to seeing if he can get that new blood in there, get the relationship built, and that if he can create a scheme that will actually allow these players to be like, okay, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here. And they won't be behind on every single play. So I really, really like that point.
Yeah, I love it too. And I just love the fact that first of all, he seemed very down to earth, like everybody has
Yeah.
said, very, very down to earth. Understands what his job is. I didn't hear a lot of coach speak out of him. It seemed like there was some plain speaking with him. It's a couple of statements he made where he just kind of was point blank, where he said, "Look, I was talking with my players among in Oklahoma State about the options I was having and the opportunities I was getting." So I and we they understood that this is why I took the job. And he goes, "Look, it's Ohio State. I mean, how do you not take the job? It's one of those elite programs. It's where I've worked to get to." And I love the fact he brought up the fact he was a Cornell head coach, and he was talking about this is why I have this experience in being the head of and I know what my job is for Ryan Day is to make sure he doesn't have to deal with this. I've taken this off his plate completely. So I love that. I just love the fact, like everything you said about talking about multiple facet defense being confusing to the offense, but simplistic for the guys running the defense. And I like the fact he talked about the 3 safeties, the cover safety, the box safety, boundary safety, I should say, and then of course that single high guy who basically runs the defense from the back end. Love that some of the comments he made. Oh gosh, what was that one we were talking about before we went on air, Shay?
Oh yeah, he was talking about his time over there at Oklahoma State, right? And he was like, we built it. We were just a few yards away from going to. We wanted to compete for a national championship. We wanted our defense to be on the same point of the offense. He said we were just a few yards away from it. If you guys remember in that game, I believe it was against Baylor. But anyway, he
Yeah,
said it took 4 years. I don't have 4 years here, so he
yeah,
understands, right, Corey? He understands that
yeah.
it's a now. Ryan Day expects it now, and he's going to come in there and do that. But to that point, another thing I really liked about him, just his understanding of the situation that he's in. He understands that it's not going to be like we have the personnel. This is who you have.
Hmm.
Figure it out kind of situation, and he's ready for that challenge. But secondly, he said the hands-on thing. One of these comments that he was referencing was you can watch people on film and all this stuff, but you got to be able to like be more hands-on, and that's what I loved about all the coaches. A lot of them like kind of reference something similar too, but being hands-on, he can see everything on film, but he wants to get to know these players and see them in person and see how they play and what he can do with them, because this is the personnel that he has and the expectations are when now. And so I love that he has the plan to get moving, and even understanding that like sometimes what you see on film isn't always an accurate representation of what those players really are. It could have been a scheme. It could have been injuries that these coaches were talking about. You never know. And so I love that he's willing to get in there and see what he actually has in person to be able to see where he needs to make adjustments.
Yeah, I think the only form of coach speak I probably heard him say was something along the lines of, "Last year, as good coaches who did a good job, and we're not far off." And I'm like, "Listen, Jimmy, I love you, buddy. And I know you're being PC with fellow coaches, and I respect that. You can't go out there and say, 'Oh, those guys sucked. They were horrible.'" But we all Buckeye Nation. I think he understands. He's going to let us have our own opinions about that,
Yeah,
And we didn't. Obviously, they weren't up to par, or they'd still be there. And
totally.
I mean, that's just common sense. But I don't know about final summation about Jimmy Knowles. After seeing him, I mean, we were excited when he got hired, obviously because of the results. But after seeing him now in his first press conference, are you more excited or less excited, Shane?
I'd say I'm more excited. There would be no reason for me to be less excited, in my opinion. What about you, Corey?
I love him. He's got. I'm a blue collar guy. I own a small painting company. Let me tell you guys something. I am that lunch pail, blue collar, go to work and put your boots on, go to work guy. This guy is everything. He represents that at 100-fold. I mean, it's just he look at him. I mean, he doesn't look like a clean cut guy. He's like, I'll grow my beard out. I'll bring my peanut butter and jelly sandwich and carrot sticks to lunch, and go eat alone in the cafeteria and get back on the field and go to work. I mean, I love it. I think he's great. I think he's going to be at Ohio State for quite a long time. I think he's going to be the Brent Venerables to Ryan Day.
Oh, I like that.
I really think he will be because he's 56. He's not looking for another head coaching job. It didn't sound to me like he's looking to advance to be a head coach. It sounds to me like this is kind of like a destination job to him. That's what I got from him in that press conference. But we'll see. You never know what the future might hold. Of course, then we got the next one I watched was the other side of the ball because I was really interested to see what Justin Frye had to say.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more impressed with Justin. Only 38 years old, young guy, is climbing up the ranks pretty quickly. He was a G8 Florida. He was offensive line coach at Boston College, offensive line coach, run game coordinator, offensive coordinator, really, as at UCLA. But let's be real, Chip Kelly's really the play caller and everything there. Comes to Ohio State, not even the run game coordinator technically, associate head coach, offensive line coach. Of course, no matter what, it's not even a parallel move. I mean, it's an upward climb when you go from UCLA to Ohio State. Let's be real. Plus, he's got Midwest roots. He from Indiana. He loves the Midwest. He actually mentioned that he loves staying at his in-laws' house rather than a hotel. So, let me ask you something, Shane. Your first initial impressions of our new offensive line coach?
Ooh, loved his vibe, man. And I've never, and I want to know like what the rest of you guys who are listening to this think too, because I had never actually listened to this guy talk before, and I hadn't really paid much attention to him until Ohio State picked him up. And then this was the first time I've actually heard him speak. I loved his vibe, Corey. There was something about him that just kind of, I sat here, I'm like, okay, I dig this guy, which makes me wonder if, that same vibe might be what the players feel too. Like, okay, this guy, he's younger, but I can get on board with this. What do you think, Corey?
I think he's going to be a guy that People have talked about his recruiting, the lack of recruiting, and I mean, he's been at Boston College and UCLA. These aren't places that are bringing in the top of the top of the top. But Ohio State, he mentioned it going into high schools with that block O. All of a sudden, the respect you command is a little bit different. That brand sells itself. The place sells itself. I think we're going to see a major uptick in his ability to recruit. I mentioned it with Johnny. I think his first recruiting win was DeJuan Jones, to keep him in Ohio State, because he was really close to leaving. And I think Justin Frye obviously had to sit down and talk about him, like, look, this is where we can improve. This is your game. This is where we can get you a higher draft pick. I see a lot of good, and I see a lot of things we can improve on. I think he's going to end up getting the kind of players he wants at Ohio State, whereas he had to maybe settle a little bit other places.
Yeah.
And I look at it this way: he's the kind of guy who's used to developing 3-star guys. So if we have, maybe we're lacking, because I look at 2023, 2024, and I'm concerned. Like, where's our tackles coming from, right? Paris Johnson will probably be a 1-year guy, probably. Not guaranteed, but he probably will be. DeJuan Jones will be gone. So who's your tackles after that? I think he's a guy who can develop some of the guys already on the roster and be adequate to good at those positions. And then again, of course, recruit for down the road, right? So he can rebuild that position. I think that's part of why Stud's gone. It's because there's a lot of question marks going in the offensive line after the next couple of years. I look at it. Imagine Justin Frye never worked with a guy like Donovan Jackson. Probably comes in and says, "Oh my gosh, I get to work with Paris Johnson and Donovan Jackson. Are you kidding me?" And he's just excited for the opportunities. He's excited to show what he can do. It's a rejuvenation of his coaching ability and what he wants to do. I could tell him. And by the way, what stood out was his respect and admiration for Ryan Day, because they've worked together and known each other for a long time. Did that stand out to you, Shane, when you saw him talking about how Ryan Day hadn't even changed from being an offense coordinator to a head coach of Ohio State?
Yeah. In fact, that was one of the things out of all these interviews. None of them were Ryan Day speaking, but I gained an immense amount of respect for Ryan Day based on the responses of these coaches, and he was one of them, obviously. So, yeah, that totally stood out to me, the respect he had. I obviously gained some respect for Ryan Day myself, man.
Yeah, look at that offensive room. I'm seeing Brian Hartline, Tony Alford, Justin Frye, Kevin Wilson, Ryan Day, obviously, and Corey Dennis. So I'm like, is there a better offensive staff in the country on paper?
On paper, no. That's what's so frustrating, though. We all know that as Buckeye fans. We know what we have. Yeah. Now it's just a matter of actually executing on the field, because we know what we have. We know what we have back there. It's gold. Mm-hmm. I just wish people understood like how well we have it. From the coaching to the players, we have it very well at Ohio State.
And you're just talking about Justin Frye's vibes. I got immediate vibes from him that he's a lot like Jeff Hafley. I got that same feel when I watched him speak. And so I'm thinking this guy's going to be a head coaching candidate within the next 2 years. I can't see how not. People say offensive line coach, head coach. Well, it happened to Arkansas, and he's doing a good job at Arkansas, the guy from offensive line coach from Georgia. If you're a really good offensive line coach, more and more programs are looking at that to build the toughness. I think the offensive line, defensive line coaches are where the toughness starts on a team. So
I can see that. And to that point too, and I kind of want to speak about something that he said here, because it makes sense what you were just saying. Offensive line, defensive line coaches, the toughness starts there, but there's a lot more, I guess, analytics or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot more smarts that come into that than people actually realize.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I think maybe these programs are looking at those types of coaches, because they understand what actually goes into that. Not only are you hitting the weights, you got to be the strongest, the biggest, fastest, whatever, but as a coach, you have to be able to adjust. Now, if you guys go listen to that interview with Justin Frye, I loved, the question came up like, what's your theory and your philosophy on like who plays where and what? And he said, I've always been of the belief that you play your 5 best guys. Well, no doubt, right? We all think that.
But when you start every year,
play your 5 best guys. But then what happens when one goes down? And that's kind of like he said, you pick your, a certain amount of tackles, a certain amount of guards, whatever. But what happens if like your left guard or whoever he said, I can't remember verbatim, but he said, what if your guard goes down and your backup guard happens to be like maybe your 9th best player, but maybe your 6th best player is a tackle that can, play both positions. You're going to play your 6th best player, even though that's not necessarily a backup guard. And I started thinking about that, Corey, because I don't think a lot of people think that way. He was talking about the gymnastics is the word he used, the gymnastics that are involved with, trying to make sure you have the right guys, the right personnel, because when you travel, you can only have X amount of people travel with you. So he's going to develop those players. He has his set guys, but he wants them to be able to play multiple positions if necessary, that they can move an outside guy to the inside and that stuff. And so that right there also showing me, I'm like, the guy is smart. So no wonder like teams should be looking for offensive line coaches as a head coach position at some point in their career, because they have to deal with that on a weekly basis. So anyway, I thought Justin Frye was an absolute stud, to say the least.
Oh, jeez, choice of words there. Yeah, I'm definitely vibing. I'm definitely excited about those two. Let's move on to the next one, back over the other side of the ball. I got to see Tim Walton after that. I'm really excited for this one too, because I really think, I wouldn't say we're linebacker you. I know I'm changing positions there. Don't worry, I'm not going to lose my mind. But we have good linebackers, right? We usually typically have good linebackers. But I feel like Ohio State has a great history of corner play. I mean, you go back to Sean Springs, to Antoine Winfield, Ahmed Plummer. I'm not going to go through the list of everybody, but Nate Clements was another really good one. Went last in the NFL for quite a while. All Garen, and the recent run of Eli Apple, Gary Conley, all of them. But Denzel Ward. I'm sorry, people who mentioned Gary Conley get upset. Bradley Roby, but there tons of them in the NFL and been successful in the NFL. And I feel like we've lost that a little bit.
Yep.
I'm not dissing the players we have. I think Cam Brown and Denzel Burke are nice players. I think Burke has the potential to be a really nice player. But getting a guy like Tim Walton with the credentials that he has is already impressive. And I look at this, Shane, and I say, you know what? I bet you anything Tim Walton, even though he's been a bit of a journeyman, this is a place I could see him being comfortable and just staying. Like, okay, I've been a corners coach like everywhere, but now I'm home in Columbus where it all started, and I'm on a great staff. I have a chance to play for national titles. He could become the Corey Raymond, I think, who ironically just left LSU. Brian Kelly couldn't keep him, was hilarious, but Corey Raymond, remember for years he just would not leave LSU for nothing. I feel like Tim Walton could become, if you pay him enough and he produces well enough, he could become that guy where you're like, you know what, we got a good steady Tim Walton back there. He's producing corner after corner after corner. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say. So leave us a
please
comment. We'd like to hear it too. But he's a mellow guy. I feel like what you say, kind of, it's like the circle life. He's kind of circled back to where he came from. He's home now. He's had a really good career as far as like coaching some top tier athletes in the NFL everywhere. Like he's got he's got a really big resume right now. And I almost feel like, okay, right now, this is where he could be fulfilled in the work that he does and just be fine with it. Just like you said. So I'll just echo everything that you said right there. I definitely think that's what Ohio State's been missing, like you said. And this is the guy, if, he's big about relationships too. I wrote that down. It's like the relationships. It's a huge piece of what he does. He already knows that his skill set, he was very mellow in his interview, but his skill set is to develop these corners. He knows what he's doing. He already knows what he's really, really good at. That's what he's been doing. He's mastered that. He doesn't need to speak to that anymore. And he didn't really have to talk to that much, because everyone knows what he's been able to produce. At this point, it's about like, here, okay, I need to make sure I build the relationships. Like that's a huge, important piece, that these players trust me. I trust them. We're going to get to know them better, this and that. And so I can see him like being that guy that the players know, and then word travels fast. You know what I mean? And so other athletes will hear about that. Like, I want to play for this guy. I can trust this guy. I believe in this guy. And then once the people start, you start seeing those numbers increase when they get drafted to the NFL, it'll start speaking. So you got the brand of Ohio State and then the resume of Walton all combined in one right there. I think it's going to be massive for the future of the Buckeye, defensive backs. And I think he's going to be there for a while.
Yeah, and he got a national title with Nick Saban at LSU when he was a DB coach there. Been in the NFL for years, so he has both the college and the NFL acumen. And on top of that, he's a guy that's like, look, I played in the NFL, I coached in the NFL, I coached at the highest college levels, I've won a national title. We're at a place where we can win national titles and we can compete and get you the pros in the first round. I have a feeling this guy's going to start pulling like Brian Hartline type classes. I really do. For whatever reason, I get that vibe from him. He's going to start pulling impressively surprising DB classes. I loved everything he had to say. I love the fact I just think he and Knowles could end up being here for a very long time at Ohio State. I think finally we're starting to see a sense of possible stability in the defensive staff. I'm not guaranteeing it, guys. I'm not sitting there saying this is definitely going to happen, but I see where it could the cracks could start to be patched over finally, and we could start to be seeing a consistent culture on defense being built brick by brick. And it starts with guys like Jimmy Knowles and Tim Walton, in my opinion. And that's not to take away from anybody else, because I think Larry Johnson's contributed to anything that's good defensively, culturally wise, over the last 10 years. And he's the only steady constant over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And then, of course, last but not least is Perry Eliano, safeties coaches. This is, again, you and I talked about this. Talk about the brand. You're the DB coach for Cincinnati, a playoff team now. You can say they're a playoff team now, and coached some All-American type talent, and Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant. And you look, I think Kobe Bryant's a Thorpe Award winner, isn't he? So
I believe so.
And I look, and then he comes to Ohio State, not even to coach the entire DB room, just to coach safeties. I feel like he's the kind of guy, like, he will get a defensive coordinator position in the next couple of years and probably go. And I wouldn't blame him. He's been slowly climbing up that ladder, and we're gonna be thrilled he's here while he's here. But if there's anybody I could see end up leaving just to keep ascending up that ladder, it'd be Perry. Am I wrong on that one? Am I crazy?
Nah, you're not wrong, man. I think he's
But I am
where he needs to
crazy.
be right
Got it.
now. Yes, exactly. But he's where he needs to be right now. I think Eliano, I was excited about his interview too, but I never actually got the vibe when he got pulled over here. I never thought of him as a long term. I don't know why. That was just kind of like my initial thoughts anyways. Just because of we've talked about it, the position where he's coaching and so forth, just kind of like the title and the responsibilities. Like, obviously he's a guy I think who wants to, ascend through his career, through the ladder, if you will, of coaching. And he has the ability to do so with the resume that he's built. This was a move for the brand. He wants to win titles. He wants to win, be at a place where he can win a championship and compete consistently with some of the best, and have the resources to do it. And I think that's where he's at. And he's probably going to, he'll probably end up leaving, which he should. If he performs well, I believe everybody should have that opportunity to, better themselves in their career. But, what I got from him, Corey, I want to ask you this question.
Okay.
While he was chill, I do believe he'll end up leaving. To answer your question, I think he will leave eventually. But I think he's a great fit. Listening to him talk, I thought, he felt like it was the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
He's very chill as well, just kind of mellow, just understands what he's here to do. Are you excited about Perry Eliano after hearing him talk, though? Are you excited about him? I know everyone's excited. It's the first thing. We're all excited because we got rid of everything last year, cleaned house. Here we are. After hearing him talk, what are your thoughts?
I'm more excited about him than I even was before. I don't think people realize. I mean, yeah, he's safeties coach. I think part of what brought him over to Cincinnati to be safeties coach is how important the safeties are in Jim Knowles' system. I mean, he'll play three on the field a lot of times. I mean, Perry Eliano is going to be a very specifically important coach, I believe. Because again, you're going to have that single high, that boundary safety, in the cover safety in the slot nickel position. And I think, and look at the room he's coming into. He's got Josh Proctor coming back. Hopefully, he'll be healthy. I mean, people don't like Bryson Shaw, but he's got a ton of experience, and he's talented enough to play at a Power 5 school. And then, of course, you got Ronnie Hickman. You got Lathan Ransom whenever he gets healthy. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be a while for him. You got Cam Martinez, who's an extremely blessed talent as well. I mean, you got a lot of good players in that state. Oh, Court Williams is another one. I mean, we're crying out loud. I can't forget about Court. A lot of young talent there, and you got experience with guys like Proctor. So it's going to be incredibly important that all these guys. I mean, you have Hickman and Proctor, and probably Tanner McAllister. I can't forget him as well to transfer cover safety on the field at the same time. That's a ton of talent, but a ton of responsibility. And I want a guy who is in control, chill, and understands his role, and understands the importance of his role, which he seems to. And that, and the other point I caught from him is, like, again, he's another one who's like Justin Frye saying, "Gosh, when you put on that block O and go to recruit, it's just a new level of respect you get."
Yeah.
And they keep reminding, and these new coaches are like, they keep reminding you, and they're genuinely surprised a little bit by. I mean, they come into the school knowing Ohio State's Ohio State. They're not dumb, but again, you don't, until you experience it. I don't think you really understand. Like, when you go into a high school, that high school coach will roll out the red carpet just because you got that block on your pullover. So I'm actually excited about him because I know he's a great coach, and I know his specific position is extremely important in Jimmy Knowles' defense. And I think that that's why they went and said, we need to go get the very best we can get. And they went to Cincinnati just down the road and said, look, I understand you got a great job over there. And then I'm not dissing Cincinnati because they are, Fickle has done fantastic things with that program. And I'll be honest with you, if Ryan Day did leave, I wouldn't be mind at all if Fickle came to Ohio State and be the head coach. But I do love the fact that he went and Ryan Day said, look, I mean, I love you, Luke, and I love Cincinnati. I love Ohio, but I'm going to poach your best guy, one of your best guys, and take him for my staff because we need a great safeties coach. And I think we hit so far on paper, I think we hit it out of the park.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited, Corey. I'm excited for these guys. I'm with you, and I love that answer, too, because I would agree with you. I love the whole fact. I'll just reiterate this as we wrap it up.
I apologize. I'm coughing, guys. I'm a little under the weather.
But Corey's under the weather, but he's still here because he wants to bring you guys this content. See, with Perry Eliano, though, and you look at Walton, you look at Knowles, you look at these guys, what I love about it the most is after seeing these guys, they all have the personality that I think, they know that Knowles will be the guy calling the shots. And Eliano and Walton, I feel like those guys are okay with that. They know their role. They know that they're going to come in here and specifically focus on those dudes. They know that they're going to have an important role in this defensive scheme. And they're okay with that, which gives me a little bit of confidence. Obviously, we'll see. Time will tell when adversity hits and so forth, when the season starts and whatever, how they mesh together. But I have a feeling that their personalities, after now having heard them speak, they mesh. And that to me brings some confidence as a fan because I'm like, okay, we know that things are taken care of on the inside, like inside that locker room, that's taken care of. Now it's about we have the talent on the field. Can we actually execute as a team? So I'm excited about that. Their personalities are great.
Yeah, as far as the overall big picture, I mean, you and I talked about this 2 weeks ago. There is something culturally broken with the defensive side of the ball at Ohio State. I really feel like this staff is that first step to completely fixing that platform, that foundation, the issues that were culturally wrong at Ohio State defensively. Because I think we're going to finally see some stability going forward. I don't see Knowles, I don't see Watson leaving anytime soon. Now, Larry Johnson might retire within the next couple of years. I mean, the way they handled the Al Washington situation before he left makes you at least appreciate the fact that I think they have a plan going forward as to how they want to transition. When they were talking about Al Washington working with Larry Johnson and possibly being the heir apparent there. And they'd also talk to other D-line coaches around college football to see if there was okay, do we want to come and be an heir apparent? They were the Joe Bob Clement rumor came out heavy and hard, and it turned out not to be true. He denied it. Literally the day we released the video, he denied it.
Yeah.
But I was like, thanks, Joe. But that being said, the rumor got big enough for him to have to deny it. So there's obviously smoke out there that they're putting a plan in place for Larry, and they might have asked him to hold off retirement just so they can get a blueprint down and make sure that they have a smooth transition. I'm still putting it out there. Ryan Day, I know you don't listen to the show, but whoever knows Ryan Day or whatever, Randall Joyner, seriously, go get him. Don't even hesitate. That dude's a beast, and he could beat Ohio State until he ends up being a defensive coordinator somewhere, because he absolutely will at some point.
I love it.
Absolutely. Sure. Anything else to add?
I think we're good, brother. We've covered it all, but I would just love to hear what the people have to say. So you guys, if you're listening to this, make sure to leave us some comments on what your guys' thoughts were of these coaches' interviews, and let us know how excited you are for Buckeye football now.
Oh, geez. I think we're all just chomping at the bit waiting for August at this point. But we'll have to make do with spring and spring football because all the updates that come out of there. So, guys, we'll continue to try to bring the best content we possibly can to you. And we want to hear what you have to say in the comment. Please like the video if you like what you saw, and subscribe to the channel. It all helps the channel. We appreciate and love all you guys for helping us grow as much as we have so far. Shane, it's always a pleasure, my brother. Can't wait to do more shows in the future with you, obviously, coming up. Shane and I usually record on Wednesdays, and we're going to continue to try to talk just Buckeye sports with y'all.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. It's been a blast, Corey. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. As always, guys, God bless. Goodbye, and go Bucks.